It's about 5:15. The kitchen crowd. Sweet Jane. Jane, what are you doing? As always. Say hi.
Hey, I learned how to cook a turkey with Miracle with
Deb. The ham lady, very nice.
Don't laugh. Now, listen, we were in Florida and I was going to cook a turkey and I cooked them, you know. At Bernadette said to me, "Damn, I'm a cook with Miracle Whip." So I said, first thing,
a glass bowl.
this was kind of a throwaway turkey. I was just cooking it to slice it. So I said, fine, let's cook it with, hey, it comes out a golden brown.
What do you put? I mean, all you do is you just cover the entire thing with Miracle Whip. It's like a
And not only that,
and then wrap it. No,
Hey.
this is gorgeous.
hey, not only that, it was in a very fancy article of recipes in the Sunday newspaper.
Say, Katie, did you find more songs? All right, what?
The room. The throne.
Who did that?
Who did it, Tom?
Dueling video
Yes.
cameras.
She's on her way back from Sioux Falls.
Dun, 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 dun.
Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Dun dun dun. Dun 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 dun. My God!
I can't.
You've got a lot of Oleandina to them.
I'm going to tell one today.
Are you? Yeah, Miss Larson, why aren't you part of the Swedish Institute?
Because I'm a Dane.
What's your point?
They wouldn't let me in if I begged them.
Hey Tom, how come this doesn't? What am I doing wrong here? Oh, I got
The
it.
Danes always had better navies, but the Swedes always had better armies. So it was like a total standoff. So they said, well, forget it. You guys go attack Russia and we'll go attack England. And let's leave each other alone.
Well, that was the Norwegians.
I think some the first person at the party gets to decide which side it goes on. and
Now,
then-
is that the accurate way to do this? We're copying
Oh,
it.
anything's accurate.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, but there is a rule in business.
I'm not supposed to extend my hand until your hand is extended, I know that. I'm a about that too. I like
true.
Yes, a female direct, you are not supposed to extend your hand to a female.
Who says that, Miss Manners?
But then you kind of like do it and then nothing happens and you sort of.
That's true. It is kind of awkward if it's out there. There's no forward and back.
Oh, yeah, well, my next point was.
Yeah.
So then you do one of these. Right? You do one of these.
I've done it.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's up.
Is that the new rules or is it?
I don't think so.
That,
You can't
that's,
extend your hand to a woman.
And I've been a female for all I know.
I've heard that before, I don't know.
But maybe in this new, you know, this everything stand back.
Yeah, this is not.
Jerk a little on one side.
Okay.
You need to hug. That's wonderful. I did
Hi, folks. Doesn't
Well, Bob told us we were going to First Bank, and I was not to wear my sweatsuit. So where'd you buy all those clothes from? It wasn't easy. Guys, I am just absolutely hard. Lori, even Lori never comes to town. Never comes. And Michelle, and Carla, oh my Lord, I just, come on down. I can't believe how good you are. I'm coming back to breakfast. We were just discussing that. We were just discussing that. Unanimous opinion. I have it on my list. Congratulations. And you'll love it. Better every day. Happy retirement. You are the best surprise. Not even
She's so, I mean, all she is right there in front. I
They've been hiding this.
mean, let's sleep over.
I got the believe it. I got the
When we're, I had an agenda, but Nancy handed me a poem from Howard and Norma, and maybe I thought I'd start there. So we're going to leave you up here long. Do you want to say who they are?
Howard and Norma are very, very good friends. Norma's Vice President of Merrill Corporation, and Howard is a advertising, retired advertising guy. Very good friends.
Okay.
That's before I hear.
Well, you will be calling them in the morning. Titled "Turn the Page, Start a New Chapter." Beautiful, dutiful, generational, non-outside occupational. At that time, Pat Ryan was compliant. Wife, mother protector, teacher, nurturer, rock, solo, no charts, a turn that Pat Ryan Green could not have possibly foreseen. Inner steel forges talent, and with career growth, travels on parallel tracks leading to new expression. For Pat Ryan Green, it could only mean more to come. Idealism versus reality, conflict, injustice, poverty, hatred. plus 7 dead lies. The earth seems ill-fated, still there's hope to be had. Warm light to glean from herself, the indomitable Pat Ryan Green. Equal and eagle, let's be done with sham. When opportunity knocks, chassez la femme. Striving quite mightily, both day and nightly, for just that scene, Pat Ryan Green. Ever result, always brave, get this picture, Pat, alas, in colonial mass, her flag a serpent a tree, and don't tread on me. Astute, alert, acute, curious, encompassing, discerning, leavening as needed with shrieks of laughter, Pat Ryan Green, then, now, and after. Okay, now we can start. Let's start with this. First, Pat, shockingly, is 65 years old. This is why she's retired. So first, when I'm going to say something, then stand up if you're in this group. Who's known Pat met her between 1930 and 1940? So stand up. Okay. 1940, 1950. 1950, 1960. The big decades are coming. 1960, 1970. 1970, 1980. And then the 1990s. Now, who is here and I don't know why they're here? Because I see a couple of people sitting.
They were all good decades.
Yeah. Let me do a few introductions here. A couple of Pat's children couldn't be here. Larry, who is in, you gotta help me, Larry, you're supposed to be listening to me.
Oh, yeah.
Larry is
With a sprained ankle in Washington.
in Washington. Good thing. Mary Catherine and her friend Deb, stand up. Her daughter Peg, her son Katie, daughter Katie, and her son TDP. And her son Michael is not here. He's in the Dominican Republic. He called today. Called everybody, told us to say nice things about you. Tom, his wife Jane, and their son Ryan is not here. And Chris, who really did the yeoman's work on this, and his wife Lynn. Pat's sister Corinne and her husband John Trucco, they're over here. And Pat's longtime friend Lola. And Pat's first cousins, who you had no idea would be here. Okay, but it's going to be here. That was especially a surprise. Marie Garvey. And your husband Marie here? Okay. Eileen and Al Samuelson?
No, they're...
Okay. Sheila and Bob Holtzman?
Not here.
Okay, Sheila, well, Sheila's here, that's important. And Sister Judith Murphy? There we go. You can talk. That's what I'm doing.
They were wonderful cousins. We all grew up in the same house. There were 7 of us, and we've all been very close.
It was the first of commune, wasn't it?
That's where I got my communistic ideas, right?
Now, you belong to a lot of clubs, so if people would just kind of put their hand up if they are in one of these clubs. The Press Club? They chased you out of that one.
Alan Gerber, my word.
Al, you timed that perfectly. Your birthday club? There we go. Bridge club? No, I have to ask you, when Pat has the bridge club at her house, are all the newspapers on the radio? They are, because I was over there yesterday for lunch and they're not there. And the radiator's blue. I don't know if anyone ever saw it. Yesterday we were at Pat's for lunch. She's thinking about building a new home, and kind of doing some planning, and the big feature in the home is to have one giant room for all her stuff. Well, little does she know that when she loads it up in the U-Haul, her kids are going to send up the new house, and they're going to the Burnsville dump with them. Anyone here from her breakfast club? Back there?
That was an AAUW breakfast club. Some people belong to more than one club.
Yeah, you can raise your hand twice. And then the Mafia, what is that?
My brother-in-law from Chicago.
Colin Siddiqui, you were in the Mafia too? Good. Good. Start them young, start them early. And then the Young Republicans.
He'll do anything for a plug.
My wife and myself, we sent Pat a letter last week telling her we were going to take her on a trip around the world when she retired. And I got a letter back from
I didn't get that.
I got a letter back. I knew I should have put a switch on that mic. I got a letter back from Pat yesterday, November 11th, 1995. Dear Dan, thank you so very much for your offer of a trip to the Far East with you and your wife to begin the day after my retirement from MSI. I am almost speechless. Almost, but not quite. As exciting as it sounds, I will be unable to schedule any trip of such duration for the next few years. Although I am retiring from my profession, I am entertaining offers from a number of organizations, institutions, and individuals that will certainly require my full attention for the next 2 years. See attached. And so I went to be attached. It's amazing. All this looks like it came off my computer, and it didn't. It came from here. Dear Pat, I wanted to get this letter off to you ASAP because I know I'm going to be tied up the next few weeks wrestling President Clinton to the proverbial floor. I desperately want you to come to Washington on January 1st, 1996 to publish our newsletter. Only someone with your social experiences can provide the insight needed as we attempt to sell our agenda to the American public. Sincerely yours, Speaker of the House, the most honorable and likable Newt Gingrich. P.S. Is it okay? P.S. Is it okay if I break the news to Senator Wellstone? Dear Mrs. Green, it has come to the attention of the Board of Directors that you are ending your association with MSI. May we take this opportunity to congratulate you and to offer you the position of Director of Governmental Affairs. As we assume you are quite familiar with our association, I will spare you the details of the position's responsibilities. Needless to say, we are quite confident that you will add significantly to our influence at the nation's capital. See you at the OK Corral. Respectfully, I am a Bullet Executive Director of National Rifle Association. Then our letter continued. I guess all these conservative groups want me because they are impressed that I kept the liberals in power for the past 30 years. Oh well, when you're a hired gun like me, you just got to go with the highest bidder. Love, Pat. P.S. If you want to contact me in D.C., send an email to www://ptgreen.wannachangetherworld.runningoutofTime.at no.organization. In trying to get everybody's name, Pat's son Tom got her mailing list. That's how we send everything. But we also knew we wouldn't reach some people, so we put a classified ad in 135 newspapers worldwide. And the ad read, it was kind of coded, but we knew people would read it. The ad read, SWF RID, single white female retiring in December. YKWTI, you know who this is. AYDWTMTP, and you don't want to miss this party. 6 p.m. 11/12 TY, 6 p.m. November 12th this year, ADS. At the Swedish. Anyway, we got all kinds of congratulatory letters back from people all over the world. Dear Pat, I had to get special permission from the big guy to send this congratulatory note to you. It is really outside of the rules to do this, but he understood what a big fan I was of yours and how much it would mean to you to hear from me. Congratulations on your retirement. Respectfully, Richard, you can't kick me around anymore, Nixon. P.S. Never had the chance to thank you for stirring up all that trouble at the Democratic Convention in Chicago in '68. I was talking to Hubie the other day. He still doesn't know you instigated it. Dear Pat, congratulations. I couldn't be any prouder. Although most people would say we are as different as black and white when it comes to politics, I know your heart is with me. Stars and Stripes forever, General Colin Powell. P.S. If you hear any job openings, let me know. I don't think this presidential thing is my cup of tea. Dear Patricia, the Coalition salutes your years of work. It is the working women like you that are the heart and soul of America. Good luck in your new life. With great respect, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, Rainbow Coalition. P.S. Didn't see you at the Million Man March. Whoops, we didn't mean that the elder women like you should stay home. Dear Pat, Hillary and I say Yahoo. No one deserves to put her feet up and rest a spell as much as you do. Congratulations, President and Mrs. William Jefferson Clinton. P.S. Although I think I raised taxes too much in 1993 on those Texas fat cats, I still believe that my tax increase on Social Security benefits was a good idea. Don't you?
Not today.
Dear Pat, from all 4.8 billion of us, congratulations and job well done. Yours always, the General Secretary of the UN, Boutros Boutros-Ghali. And the last one, dear Patricia, Umbagas, Diomedes, or Phidias, with the blessings of the Lord, the most holy see, Pope John Paul II. P.S. Ectum Spirito Tutu.
I was expecting that one.
I thought it'd be kind of nice because people obviously know you over, from different times, that you kind of went through your life story, so I can either kind of prompt you, although you usually don't need that. But maybe if you just start, who your parents are, and where you were born, and where you went to school, and we'd all
Well,
like
this
to
is
hear.
probably going to be news to my kids. We don't talk about this.
So, why don't you start with your parents?
Well, my mother and father got married in the late 20s, and my mother was a school teacher, my father was a doctor. I was born in 1930, the first of three of us, and my mother died when I was 5, and my father married again when I was 9, and we lived in Chicago all those years. And
Where'd you go to grade school?
St. Clements, where Lola and I met in 8th grade. So we've been friends for more than 50 years. 55 almost. And then, let's see, that's grade school, high school, and during all this time I lived with my cousins down there. Well, I mean, our families lived together. And then I went to St. Clements High School and went to the University of Rochester in New York and graduated
Got your degree in?
in education and English.
You did it in 4 years?
Yeah, those were the days when everybody did it in 4 years. And well, as a matter of fact, I got out 3 months early because Ray and I were going to get married in June of that year. And, we got married in February. And we moved to New York City. And
What year was that?
52.
Okay.
And then we moved to Maumee, Ohio, and a small town in Michigan to a farm. And
Was that the farm with no water heater? Is that the story?
well, it didn't have a lot of things. So we had, by that time, Ray had gone to law school, and at night, took him like 3 years, and then he got his law degree, and he wanted to practice in a small town, so we went up to the Irish Hills of Michigan. He also wanted to farm, well, which was, that part was a disaster. We never did learn farming. And so we lived up there for a year, and then he came back and got a job in Chicago with Prudential.
Did you have any of the kids at this point?
When he started law school, we only had Larry, and by the time he finished, we had 4 more.
Kind of prolific.
So
huh?
our lives were pretty busy in those days. And, but I had the privilege of staying home all those years, like a lot of my friends, which unfortunately the next generation isn't going to be that lucky to stay home.
I plan on staying home.
And then, let's see, then we were in Maumee, and then Ray moved, let's see, he had opened a law practice in Maumee, Ohio, and then we moved up to Michigan, and the lawyers up there were doing wills and income taxes for $5 a piece, so we figured we probably couldn't do thriving a business. And then we moved to Chicago and lived in LaGrange, Illinois, and had a couple more kids. And then Ray wanted to buy a farm again. And so we moved up to Minneapolis and then found the farm out in, the name always escapes me. Of course, we only lived there 6 weeks, so. And when we sold our house in South Minneapolis, it was like every house in South Minneapolis, there was at least one a block that was for sale. And when we moved back 6 weeks ago, there were only 3 in South Minneapolis. And anyway, I was very happy to get back.
Then you bought the house next to the school where you are now?
Yep.
Okay. And what year was that in?
That was about 1970s. Around there, early 70s. And then, let's see, and then I worked at St. Joan of Arc for 5 years, and then Ray decided to leave, and so I went back to school and got a master's in journalism, and was very lucky to get a job at MSI. Which I've always
I think they were very lucky to get you, but
well, I've always been grateful to Jerry Friedman, the vice president, who hired me, because here I was, 49 years old, just starting out, other than my 5 years at this radical church, and not an awful good recommendation for an insurance company. So they have put up with me for the last 17 years, and some years they have put up with quite a bit. And so I finished my degree in '83, and all my kids have done just very well. I'm just so proud of them. They've all finished college, and some have finished their masters, and some have won law degree. They've all done it themselves, because at the time that I got that I went back to school, all of us, well, like 4 of us were in school at the same time, so I didn't have any money, and so they've all worked their own way through, which is just amazing. And here I am. Everything has been wonderful. I obviously didn't prepare that.
That was good. A lot of people have stories to tell.
Oh, I bet. I thought it was all true.
And with your permission, we're just going to pass the mic around and people tell whatever they want, and
With my permission or without it?
Well, I'm passing on your permission, but once it passes, you're out of control. Okay, so I'm going to pass. If we could, just to make sure we get around to all the tables, if we could keep it to 2 people telling stories per table, unless you got a real short one, then go ahead and jump in and we'll just move the mic around, and we'll be here till midnight or so. Okay? Anybody? Oh, that's right. Who wants to tell a story? Holy cow, that's like it was rehearsed or something. I forgot. Anybody at this table? Want to start? And then when you take the mic, if you would stand up and say who you are.
Well, the biggest story you told today was that we were going to the art show.
Yeah, the thing is, Nancy lies so well. It's scary.
Well, I think this is like typical Pat. We were talking, this was several years ago, but it could be true today. We were talking about someone we knew, and I said, well, I heard that she's pregnant. And Pat said, well, that can't be. And I said, well, what do you mean? She said, she's not married. But on Pat's behalf, I do have to say she's the best person. If you're going to a third world country and you want someone who will kill cockroaches and taste good for you, and all those things, like sleep with the lights on so the cockroaches don't come out. Pat is a perfect person. She's eats anything, goes anywhere, tries anything. She really, I just admire that so much because I'm so picky. Yeah, and it just. She really is. Her whole spirit is so, the whole adventure part of her spirit is wonderful to be around. And I really appreciate having been her friend and sharing some of that all these years.
Of course, Nancy did say she would never go south of the border with me again.
Hi, I'm from the Birthday Club. I'm Mary Kay Savage. And a few years ago, we were walking down the street, and I said, Pat, I just saw this really nice consignment shop over here. They have wonderful suits. So she says, oh, I'm only going to work 3 years.
My name is Joe Youngren, and Pat and I both worked at St. John's. After she did. She tried to warn me, but I was young and didn't believe it. Anyway, she was talked about going to school, and I remember her taking statistics. It was hard for her, especially because the professor didn't speak English very well. And I don't think Pat ever learned the statistic language. Good luck, Pat, in your new life.
Thanks, Joe.
I'm Jeff Grosscup. I could never imagine Pat Green, and I'm sure none of you could ever think of her going to a Club Med vacation. And in fact, the more subversive the title of the vacation, the more apt she's likely to go on. And the vacation that appealed to her was the Cuernavaca City.
Cuernavaca Center for International Dialogue and Development.
Didn't skip a beat there, but that's exactly what it was. And, I can't tell the difference between Pat Green needing her hip surgery and Pat Green after hip surgery. She never complained before when she had the bad hip, and, she had the surgery bounce back, and really I didn't know it. But the story I'm going to tell very briefly was post-hip replacements, and we were in Cuernavaca, Mexico, and we went out into a barrio which was on the far side of town, in a gully, in a ravine, through a benjo ditch, up the hill, and it was just walking on a cow path the whole way. And I'm sure the elevation change was probably 300 feet, and Pat Green was right in stride with all of us walking to the top to hear the personal story of an indigent woman with 3 children who lived in a hut on the top and gathered rainwater in a big tank for her water. And it was a privilege and so much fun and unforgettable memories of sharing that with you, Pat.
Thank you. That must have been 15 years ago, too. That was a garbage, where they used to dump all the garbage, too, that people lived in.
The time that I was on my way up to Collegeville, to St. John's, and you got wind that I was coming through Minneapolis, and you said, well, I'll meet your train and take you to lunch. And you did. And you didn't want to go too far from the train station. Do you remember where we went to lunch? Well,
I don't go to too many places like that, but the bartender said, as he opened the cabinet under the bar and looked at things that were wrapped in cellophane, he said, I don't think it's tuna fish, but we've got some cheese sandwiches and maybe there's some peanut butter. You can have whatever you want. And it was a wonderful visit.
Nothing's too good for you, Julie. I probably didn't want to get out of sight of the train station.
20 minutes. They said I could have 2 minutes. Your son. One thing about Pat and I'm Pat's brother-in-law. Okay. And I was in her wedding, as a matter of fact. So I've known her a long, long time.
That was because the other groomsmen didn't show up.
I was the only guy that owned his own tuxedo. We have always agreed about politics. We've always gotten along about politics. And I'll tell you how we reached that conclusion. She said to me one time, don't you dare ever bring up politics to me again. And ever since then, we've just gotten along famously. She's not, I wouldn't say she's overbearing when it comes to her. She likes people that share their opinions. Privately.
Well, that was pretty merciful, because John and I have been around together for a long time. He could have done a lot worse than that.
Hi, I'm Alan Gerber, and at our table we have some people that have worked with Pat for 17 years, and it has been a pleasure. Some of the more exciting things that we've done is Pat and I have learned how to manage foundations together, and we both do it, probably did it equally strangely over 12 years. And we also had a job that our employers gave us to end a rally that was being held every year for the last 30 years. And every year we'd go driving up to Duluth, and every year we'd come back and the rally was on. And so I don't know how well we did, but I'd also like to introduce Dave Bellina, who worked with Pat at MSI.
Hi, Pat. I was a new employee at MSI, and the first day on the job, I was given the tour around the company, meeting different people in different departments. I was walking down the hall, and the hall was very neat and clean. The files were all in place. They said, we want you to meet the person who works in our communications area. I came around this cubicle, and here were piles and piles of paper. And there was books and magazines. They weren't just piled, they were actually open. All of these were open. And there was this person sitting behind the desk where there wasn't any room to work. And I noticed her briefcase. Her briefcase had papers hanging out the side. I thought to myself, this is a busy lady. And Pat became, over those 2 years that I was with MSI, a real resource for information and a real help, and I always appreciated that. I left MSI, and in cooperatives we ended up working on some committees together, and one of them was what Ellen was talking about, this co-op rally. For several years we met in Duluth. 3 times a year we take a car trip from here up to Duluth to have committee planning meetings. I always drove because I had the bigger car. When Pat would come out to the car, I knew what kind of trip was going to be, depending on where she sat. She got in the front seat. I was in trouble because she wanted to talk politics. When she got in the back seat, it meant she's going to take a nap and have a nice quiet trip.
What was really bad is the time that there were 4 of us in the car, and I snored so loudly I woke myself up.
Everybody else probably slept through it.
It detracted from my business demeanor.
Anybody at this table? Over here?
W, which is where I and I believe the rest of us at this table met Pat originally. We were all young married women with young children that we took down to the nursery while we had our enrichment every Monday at the American Association of University Women. And that association though we haven't seen much of you for a long time.
Because I don't like to get up at 7:30 and get to a meeting at 7:30 in the morning.
Well, that's the breakfast club that grew out of the AUW, but AUW is still there and we're looking for you to come back.
I'll be there.
When we're done going through the group of people that want to talk, we're going to kind of go back to the format before, so if you just want to talk to Pat later, there's no need to talk now. Anybody at this table?
I'm Jean Exline, and I just have a question. How many of you here are also on the FBI subversive list? Going to meetings with Pat Green through the years.
Okay, anybody back here?
I'm Pat West. And Pat, you know, I can't remember when we met.
When you dragged me off to teach. Pat always was into something, and then she'd get me into it, and then she'd leave. It was junior grade books. Because I was new to the city. And
yes, but when did you move to the cities? I can't remember.
68.
68. And Pat and I were junior grade books leaders together. And if any of you have ever done this, you really know that you get very involved with the person that you're leading the group with. I mean, you know each other's thoughts and philosophies, so it was a great time with Pat, except I remember our first serious fight. Do you remember it, Pat?
Dr. Doolittle?
Right!
I mean, now we're talking base principles.
We did go on from there. And I hope we still do.
Yeah. And that was 25 years ago, and we still.
Yes.
We have a little entertainment for you. You gotta be warmed up.
I'm part of Church Ladies.
And we just came from Mass, so we have our instruments in hand.
I'm the Church Ladies Auxiliary.
This is Anna and Fred Bogley, who are the wonderful singers of St. Joan of Arc.
Pat and I belong to a group called Church Ladies. How many Church Ladies are here? Yes!
Okay. This is another eating group. I seem to gravitate towards those eating groups.
But I feel very privileged to belong because I'm actually still working for the church, and I think these are all ex-church ladies. So I was very honored when I was asked to be part of Church Ladies. Fred, you want to tell a little story first, and then we're actually going to sing you a song, Pat.
Well, we have 5 kids, and our third daughter was born, and our second girl was about 3 or 4 years old, and couldn't think of a name for Karen. We named her Karen, but we couldn't think of what to do. And so Heidi suggested we name her Pat Green. Seriously, he thought that'd be why not Pat Green?
Well, at least that'd be better than my kids. They don't name their kids, or nobody names anybody after me.
One night we were having Church Ladies over at someplace near Calhoun Square, and because Pat lives very close to me, she picked me up, and we drove down, and we parked in the parking lot at Calhoun Square and then started walking through the various places to get over to Annie's Parlor, maybe, that's where it was. And I couldn't understand what Pat was doing because she'd walk a little way and then she'd gravitate over toward the magazine stands and where all the periodicals are, you know, the newspapers and the free stuff. And she started taking it. I thought, oh my gosh, she's a big lady. And so I thought, well, maybe she hasn't read this little article. But lo and behold, there were like 5 stops on the way. And by the time we were done, she had at least 10 or 15 magazines in her possession.
I really need some more reading material.
But then I knew Pat was very special, and I believe she reads it all too. Okay, this is for you, Pat. I remember
a few kisses ago. I remember you, you're the one who said I love you too. I do, didn't you know?
I remember too that distant bell and stars that fell like rain out of the blue.
When my life is true and the angels ask me to recall the thrill of it all,
Then I will
tell them I remember, tell them I remember, tell them I remember you.
That's why we like to go to church on Sunday.
Pat Green and Rosemary Deneen from the same era. Catholic, obedient daughters, goody two-shoes. Raising children in the 50s and 60s, we believed our children couldn't, no, wouldn't, well, certainly shouldn't break the law. Challenge authority, smoke pot. With mothers so pure, it simply wasn't possible. Well, the 90s rolled around and they arrived, and Pat Green and I took off our rose-colored glasses. We shed our goody two-shoes and listened to the stories as they unfolded from our children's past lives. Yes, they could. Yes, they would. And yes, they did. Challenged the systems, stood on their own, protected their mothers until they felt we could handle the truth. They've been kind, dropping the news, very gently. But now you kids, listen up. Listen up, carefully now. We towed the line, never broke the rules. Stayed in line, watch out. We've just begun to live our lives. I'm grateful to you, Pat Green, for being my playmate in this decade. Take good care of yourself. I can't wait to raise a little hell.
And Rosemary's quite a teacher, too.
I'm Rich Cowles, and I worked with Pat at MSI for 9 years. And as you know, insurance companies tend to be kind of conservative. My primary objective during those 9 years was discussing politics, discussing presidents. I wasn't very successful. But truthfully, working with Pat was really great. Every day was intellectually stimulating, as I'm sure all of you know, and you couldn't ask for a more loyal and trusting employee. And you know, in any corporation, there's always a fair amount of politics, but there was one person that I could talk to every day that was totally genuine, and guileless was the word I was using. No politics with Pat. Thanks, Pat.
Well, when it comes to bosses, nobody could have hit a better one.
Hi, Pat.
Hey, Greg.
A lot of people were surprised when we showed up tonight. They didn't know a singles group was part of your life.
I helped form it.
Just so we get some recognition, everybody that's been in the singles group, put your hand up here and identify yourself.
Well, in fact, when I got invited to Keith's wedding, I thought it was because of Keith, and it turned out it was, what was it? No, I thought it was because it, yeah, that's right. But my book club person, a book club member, was the mother of the bride. So here it was my singles person that I got invited for.
So not only did Pat was a member, she set up the group, and we started in about 1980, and we didn't have too many members, and we kind of talked about rules and how old people had to be, and we just kind of decided on somewhere between 30 and 55. And the reason we selected 55 was so Pat could be in the group. We've recently gone through a terrible controversy because someone thought that 55 was too young to be in a singles group and we should have some older men. Not like myself, of course. So anyhow, now that we know the story of how age 55 was set up and all the terrible times we've had this year, we forgive you. One person one time asked me about the group if it was broken down by sex. I said no, but drugs have been real hard on me. When the group was organized, like I said, we didn't have very many members, and so we were going to have offices. And Pat was going to be secretary-treasurer because we needed a secretary, and we didn't have any money, so we just combined the groups. I became a minister without portfolio. That's a person that has a title but no job. And so that kind of launched me on my political career. I'm sure Pat's voted for me a number of times. I'm not a member of an organized party, I'm a Democrat. But there's a couple of things that I remember about Pat. Getting her Christmas letter, and I'm sure some of you got her Christmas letters, but just a couple that I remember. One night Pat was kind of stuck in a severe snowstorm, and she did manage to get her car to a gas station somewhere in South Minneapolis. And I don't know if it was the influence of the singles group or whatever, but it just didn't look like this storm was going to let up. And Pat suggested that everyone there go to a motel. There was one young man who was rather shocked by this, and he decided no, he wasn't going to any motel. So, and there's one other story I remember about. Remember when you were going to buy your mother this watch? And the thing was that, yeah, mother needed a watch, and so we went to Sears and got the watch, and it was nice, and we looked at them all and put them on and everything. And so then we got home, and suddenly the watch was missing. And so we looked all over, we looked in the boxes, we looked where we threw the boxes out, we called Sears, they didn't have the watch. And so we just decided that, you know, it must have gotten thrown out or whatever. And so I think it was it the next morning your mother said, Pat, could you check what this lump is on my arm? And yeah, that's where the watch was. So I just want to close with a joke. All my friends like it when I tell them. So this is sort of age related. It's about Ole and Lena. Ole and Lena were sitting in their living room and kind of talking, watching TV, and they were both sort of like hungry for a snack. And so Lena said to Ole, Ole, when you go to the kitchen, would you get me some ice cream? And Ole says, yeah, I'll do that. And she said, well, Ole, you better write it down because you haven't been remembering stuff too well. I'd like a little chocolate sauce on my ice cream. I can remember that. I'll have to write that down. And some nuts. You better write this stuff down. No, I can remember it. I got it. White ice cream, chocolate sauce, nuts, and he's gone. He's in the kitchen and he's rumbling around, and he's gone a few minutes, and she hears plates and everything and thinks, well, maybe things will work out. He can remember it. So pretty soon Ole comes back, and he has 2 ham sandwiches. And he gives one to Lena, and she says, Ole, I told you I wanted mustard on my ham sandwich.
Those stories, Greg, were they must have been 15 years ago in my Christmas letter. And it was a little different.
Oh, hi, Pat. I don't have anything to say, but when I have a microphone handy, I just have to hang on to it. But I do remember the first time I met Pat. I was just entering that single life again, and kind of hesitantly, and I came to this place. A friend had told me about this group, and I came there, and I was kind of unsure of myself and walked in and I saw this blonde-haired lady sitting there, had this smile on her face, and I said hi and whatever, and she actually understood what I was saying and actually smiled at me, and I thought, well, that's pretty good, you know, maybe this group would be okay for me. And so she was kind of instrumental in organizing our business and professional singles, and eventually I got into the group and had more of a role. And there were a lot of people in our group. We used to have about 9 or 10 board members when we all started. There wasn't any organization, and finally it decided, well, we needed to have some organization, and everybody had to have a job, otherwise they couldn't be on the board. And just about everybody dropped out except Pat and I, and maybe Greg, a few other people. So, and I remember one time we had to get together and plan some of the things for activities in the social part of the group. And I was trying to think of what some of the influence that Pat had. And what comes to mind is, she said there was this neat show that people might like to go to. And oh, really? Yeah, it's in Minneapolis at the Uptown Theater. And, you know, she's from Minneapolis, and what did I know? I'm a St. Paul person. I don't get out that much. And I thought, well, gee, you know, if Pat recommended it, it's probably a good thing. And so we put that in the bulletin, and we all met down at one of those Calhoun area places to eat. Turned out to be the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I'll tell you, that was quite an experience. I've never seen toilet paper flying around inside before. And anyway,
We all had understood that it was a cultural experience.
yes, it was. And there were a lot of cults there too. But there was only one more thing, and then I eventually met a person, and the person is here today, Bill, and I met there, and we decided to get married along with several of the other members. This is the alumni group here today. And we were choosing the date for our wedding, and we wanted all of our people to come, and we selected the date. It was August 29th, I think. I keep forgetting.
And it was only a couple of years ago.
Yeah, right. Anyway, we sent out the invitations, and then I noticed, and I was really upset. I looked in the paper, and what do you know, that the Woman's Take Back the Night March was on that same night, and I didn't think that Pat would make it, but when she said that she'd be glad to come to our wedding, I was just so happy that she gave up that march for me. And that's all I have to say, and I wish you many happy new experiences in Nicaragua.
Thanks, Kathy.
The invitation said no stuff. On the theory that stuff at Pat's house is better than stuff at my house. Preferable. 4 years ago, I loaned Pat a book. Molly Ivins can't say that, can she? I was utterly delighted by it. I bought it when I was out in Oakland, reading it in a restaurant, and Red Lobster restaurant. I'm breaking up at lines like, let's see, they were having an Honor the Handicap Day in the Texas legislature. And the Speaker of the House, of the legislature, the whole balcony is filled with people in wheelchairs, said, "Y'all stand up and be recognized." They almost threw me out of the Red Lobster crying over my salad. Well, anyway, I loaned the book to Pat 4 years ago, and so she'll no longer feel guilty. I have a title, be it known by all present that Pat Green is now the rightful owner. Molly Ivins can't say that, can she?
You just figured you were never going to get it back.
So I might as well make it again. One other thing, those of you who, well, everybody here knows Pat's politics. About 4 years ago, she was in an auto accident. A lady hit her, and I think testified that Pat was a member of either the CIA or the FBI or both. The rest of these are courtesy of Sonia Knudsen. We have several things here. Let's see, stuff. We need the notes. That belongs to a Valley Swim and Fitness Center. She doesn't swim. She has not got in the water yet. We have a bag for her to carry her things that she doesn't swim in. We have a MSI sweatshirt for her to put on after she doesn't swim. We have here fattening goodies for energy to, well, say she doesn't swim. We have here a sunshade for her to put in her car when it's not parked in the lot at MSI. We have here a snow brush to scoop off her car when she's not going to work. We have here, I think Sonia rated the our giveaway. We have a thermometer for her to put outside her window so she knows why she's not going to work. Winter is coming in Minnesota. And let's see, we have several other things here. We have a rain hat, which will be of great use for Pat, because when she parks 3.5 blocks from the nearest parking ramp to save money. And I think that does it, Pat. We wish you the best of luck in retirement. I'm going to truly miss Pat, because those of you over 40 may remember Little Abner and the character Joe Blisvig, who walked around with a little black cloud over his head. Well, Pat's desk is a lot that way. And, since I've known her, I came to the company 12 years ago. Since I've known her, I think she's moved her desk 4 or 5 times. And the same mess follows it. It doesn't change. You just pick it up and leave it. Now, those of you who know me also know that when Pat leaves, I have the messiest desk in the company, and that's not an honor I really want. I'm going to miss you.
Certain of my friends who will not appear with me when I have one of those rain hats on.
Boy, because you look so awesome. Anyone else want to tell a story? I mean, so many things came to mind when people were talking. I forgot all these things, but when the story about the snowstorm, was that the one? It wasn't South Minneapolis, and that's an important point. It was St. Paul, and I had just moved back to the Twin Cities, and I had a job with a company in St. Paul, and I was living in South Minneapolis with my friend Mark. And it was a pretty early season snowfalls or thump. And I had this little Datsun F10 front wheel drive, so as I drove, we left work early that day, I was passing everybody on the road, and I was just so excited. It took me 2 hours, finally got to South Minneapolis, I got home and go, God, this is great. Sit down, phone rings, it's Pat. She's at a Clark station in St. Paul, that's as far as she got from MSI. So you probably made 3 miles, and you were stuck. So, you know, what am I going to say? Get back in my car, go to pick her up. Well, on the way, then I pick her up, now we're going back to South Minneapolis, and she's dynamic, so I brought up a conversation. Well, she blows up on the phone, yelling at me, and then she worked into it that I hadn't answered her son's last 3 emails he sent me from Dominican Republic, which they never get to me, so I don't know to answer them. And she added, I can't do her voice, but she said, well, you were probably out with your rich friends. She came in pretty low.
That was because he was actually going to run on the Republican ticket. This guy.
Yes.
I couldn't imagine. I would hung around my house.
20 seconds. Yes, eating her food. A lot of it. I wasn't going to tell a story, but I'll tell it. I was contemplating running against Myron Orfield, and I'm sure some of you know who he is, and and I wasn't going to tell Pat right away because I knew she'd be upset. So, you know, luck of the Irish, the woman who was going to do research for my campaign used to date her son Michael, and they met
in Washington D.C.
Washington D.C. And that's where they met. And she lives here now because she married an old high school sweetheart of hers, who I used to work with. Anyway, so this woman, Jennifer's at a what was the meeting?
Insurance Federation.
Insurance Federation. Sitting around, and she looks across at me and she sees Pat, who she remembers from dating her son a few years
From
ago.
living in my house for a week.
Yeah, a lot of people have turned on you. So when they walk on, so Jennifer's thinking, well, obviously Pat doesn't recognize me when we leave the meeting. I'll go reintroduce herself. Little did Jennifer know that Mike, her ex-boyfriend, was in town and wanted to use Pat's car that day, so he drove Pat to this breakfast, hung around St. Paul for an hour, was going to pick her up after breakfast and then take her to MSI and have her car. So as Pat's walking out with Jennifer, Mike, who hasn't seen her since they broke up and it wasn't pleasant, is standing there. And so out of nervousness, Jennifer says, "What do you think about Dan running against Myra?" Pat didn't talk to me for about a month. And then when I sent letters out to everyone saying I wasn't going to run on hers, I tongue-in-cheek wrote, "Maybe you'll have me over for dinner again." Well, she calls and she goes, well, she leaves a voicemail. I can't say I'm sad you're out of the race. But I really wasn't keeping you away. You could have had dinner anytime. Anyway, I've known Pat for 20 years, and she has always referred to me as her adopted son, and we're both orphans. I was at a much younger age than her, and it always has meant a lot to me. And tonight a couple of people came and said, "Oh, you're her adopted son." And of all the wonderful things you've done for me, and nothing really is more wonderful how you've just kind of taken my wife into your family, and I appreciate that. But when you had your first hip operated on, I came to see you in the hospital, and I had just broken up with a woman. It was a long it was a terrible break, and I was just devastated, and I was probably at a point in my life I wish I couldn't talk to anybody about it. So I go to the hospital, and here's Pat, I mean, she's barely coming out of it. And so I'm trying to be pleasant, and she goes, "What's wrong?" And I guess you can't get a better cue than that. And so I told her, and you're just so warm and wonderful, and I've never appreciated it.
He's a great addition.
She can love him because
The stretch.
so we're gonna let you wrap it up, and then you can do whatever you want to do. But I thought maybe we'd all like to get it to our feet and give you a round of applause before.
So thrilled. I'm just amazed at my kids. As I've told people, they're just not into parties or surprises, and here was just a fantastic thing. Thanks, everybody. I'll see a lot of you now when I'm retired.
I mean, they do nothing but go to meetings. And nothing like a Sunday night. It was one. So it'll be hard. Here we go. Take
Here we go.
Sunday night.
1, 2, 3.
Can you see that in there? My nice one.
They do the Hall of Fame.
Can you do these sewing? So do you know the gender? Maybe.
No.
It's going to be a surprise.
Yeah.
Where are you going to go?
Hospital, you mean? We're at,
Yes, you can just letters are about April. Yeah, that's the same one.
I just assumed it was just
No, it's not mail. No. You know what? I mean, you can't put it in. It's just trying to say hello. We can't even say Foster again. You can't say hello. We get married and have children.
Yeah, you just go home and start everyone trying to say goodbye.
and here's where here's where the real work is being done, huh?
This is the dish crew back
The dish crew. The family doing hard labor, right?
Someone has to. We're really cleaning up on this job. That's for sure.
Well, it was great. Everything just turned out so well.
You're not a kid.
It was delicious, and I couldn't believe your mother was so surprised. That was just wonderful. That was just
The look
great.
on her face, so she came through that door.
Oh, it was awesome. She was just flabbergasted.
Did you know I couldn't get her out of the car?
I heard you had to exert some persuasion.
No, we don't have any time. We have to go to our opening.
That's when you knew she was really surprised.
Get out of the car.
Oh, that was great. I have to go back to the kitchen to get the family on tape.
Well, it was almost as though the language was heard, that they were just so
Oh, Robert.
Yeah.
People started laughing.